Yeah, man, I'm glad. I don't feel crazy now. So, we're both crazy. So that's good.
well, as long as we're crazy together, I think we're okay,
Right, right.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another week of the Remote No Pressure podcast. We're so excited that you chose to join us this week. What a great time we had today at Orvis in Grand Rapids off Burton and Breton. Thank you very much to Wild Bill. Thank you very much to Murphy. And just thank you for everyone who came out. We just really appreciate it. We had a great turnout, and we had an awesome time. And thank you very much to Trent over at Orvis here in Grand Rapids off Burton and Breton. Thank you so much for inviting us. And we all, just getting tons of positive feedback. And that was a lot of fun. Well, don't forget a couple housekeeping items. Don't forget this week is the big week, so you will get a email here sometime midweek about the big news, and we'll announce it next week as I continue to talk about it. So very excited about that. So don't forget, if you want to know early, go to remotenopressure.com, sign up for our mailing list, and we'll get you the good news. Now, this week, I'm so excited. This week was amazing. This interview this week with Mr. Jess Westbrook with the Mayfly project. And I am so pumped about what he's doing with kids that are in the foster system in fly fishing. And he talks a lot about how fly fishing changed his life. I'm not going to talk too much about it. I want him to tell you the story. Welcome to the podcast. Let's light the fire. Well, today on the Remote No Pressure podcast, we have Jess Westbrook with us from the Mayfly project. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Jeff. Thanks so much for having me, man. I appreciate you guys, reaching out, and I'm excited to talk to you and get to tell you guys a little bit about what the Mayfly Project does and have a good time tonight.
One of the reasons I reached out to you, and yes, we want to learn a lot about the Mayfly Project and everything that you've done, which has been phenomenal. But first, I want to take you as a human being, Jess, because in 2014, you and your wife had a son, Kase. And right after that, you began to experience some severe anxiety attacks. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Jess?
Yeah. So I actually remember my first anxiety attack I had. Case was 10 days old, and I'm not sure if it was the no sleep and excessive caffeine or if it was a combination of both. But when he was 10 days old, I had my first panic attack, and that morning I got up and I got in the shower, and I thought that I felt like a lump in my throat, and that's when it happened. Like sheer panic just like went all over my body. I convinced myself that I had cancer and that I was dying. But who was going to take care of Kate, and who's going to take care of Laura, and So, I started having panic attacks, and I was really worried about my health. Like it was more about, okay, well, if something happens to me, what's going to happen to my wife and what's going to happen to Case? And so I started having, like you said, severe panic and anxiety, and, it started affecting everything. It started affecting everything from, just our home life to, to my work life. I was missing tons of work, and I had a, my job that I had at the time, my bosses were phenomenal. And so they understood, and we worked through it. I kind of had a high stressful job too. I was the controller for a construction company. So I was, managing people and all this stuff. And so I think it was a combination of everything, Jeff. So I started having those panic attacks, and I think it was probably 3 weeks before Case was born. I fished with a guy from Arkansas. He's a guide, and his name's Chris Morris, and he is a really well-known guide down here. He's a certified casting instructor. He's just an all-around nice guy. He's a great fisherman, and we went fishing about 3 weeks before Case was born. And once everything kind of, I say settled down, it didn't really settle down, but once Case was a month or two old, Chris started reaching out to me wanting to go fishing. And if it had been anybody else, except for Chris, which is somebody that I had looked up to and I admired, I probably would have said no, but I was like, yeah, man, for sure, I'll go. And, I fly fished my entire life. I guided in Alaska during college. kind of guide part-time and whatnot. But, you know, I'd never used it as a tool. And I noticed that every time I went, like as a healing tool, every time I went with Chris, when I stepped in the water, all of my anxiety and panic and all that stuff seemed to just fade away. So that was kind of my first experience realizing that, hey, there's something to this. Like, I'm not just worried about catching fish or whatever. When I'm actually out here, like, everything seems to disappear. So that's kind of, how I kind of, and you hear about the healing properties of water and fly fishing and all that stuff. But, I guess I'm just a typical male. I'm just not necessarily very smart or in touch with my feelings and that kind of stuff. And, when something happens to you like that and you slow down, you start to think, and you're like, man, this really is helping. And so that's kind of when I noticed the connection between my anxiety and the relief that fly fishing brought to it.
You talked a little bit. Well, let's go back. A lot of men, especially men, but a lot of people who suffer from anxiety, who may be in a similar situation as you're in, may not reach out, may not get the help that they need, because that admitting that there is an issue, sometimes there's a level of pride. There's what made you decide, hey, there's something deeper? Was it just the physical manifestation of that, or were you like, dude, I've got to get some serious help?
Yeah. So, I really fought with it at first, Jeff. I was like, being a typical man, right? Like, I mean, men don't cry, right? I mean, grown men don't cry. So I was trying to hide, all my emotions. And, it really, like, it actually just came down to a point where it was actually affecting, like, my family. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't help Laura out around the house. I was a 29-year-old man whose mom and dad would come and stay with him during the day while I was missing work because I was scared to be by myself. I mean, there was a lot of really, really hard times. And I tried to deal with it, just like you said, sucking it up. I started, exercising, which exercise helps a little bit, but nothing helped as much as fly fishing. And, it's anxiety and mental illness and all that good stuff, is typically hereditary. And I didn't necessarily know that. And since all this has happened, like, I've come to find out, like, my dad actually has terrible anxiety. He's just never dealt with it. You know what I mean? My grandma, same thing. But it was never talked about. And so, like you said, there's always kind of a stigma with it. It's like, oh, well, he deals with this, or, maybe it's admitting weakness, or I don't know what it is, but there's always a stigma with, having, some sort of anxiety or depression or something like that, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a stigma. I totally get what you're saying. And
yeah.
Now, do you think you pointed out some hereditary things, but was there something like even deeper, and like the child triggered that to just all come out? Or do you think it was...
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? I mean...
Yeah. So, I don't know exactly what it was. Like, preparing, to be a father, I didn't know what to expect. Like, I have a Labrador Retriever, right? And I love dogs, and she's kind of been my baby, since she was born. And so I honestly thought that bringing home a child was going to be like bringing home a dog. Like the
Right.
love was kind of going to be the same. You know what I mean? And I don't think I was prepared, and it totally wasn't. I don't think I was prepared for just the amount of maybe love and responsibility that I felt for Kase. That I was not prepared for it at all. I mean, honestly, like, it was kind of just a shock to my system that, like, whoa. And I think really, like, Kase came out looking exactly like me. So it made it like that much worse. But man, this kid, he looks just like me, And so I think just maybe being, I didn't really know what to expect. Again, men don't necessarily talk about their feelings or anything. So I didn't know what to expect. And I didn't know that I guess I could love somebody that much and, want to protect them and, all that good stuff. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does. And it's funny when I hear people say, because my wife and I said the same thing. We had a golden retriever, and it's like, oh, it's kind of like, a gateway to a child. But then you have a child, and you're like, it is nothing like having a
right. Yeah, no, it's definitely not. Like I said, it's so funny because everybody always told me, they were like, oh, well, Josie's going to take a back seat. And I'm like, no, not Josie. Not Josie, I can't remember the last time I fed Josie. I mean, that's sarcasm. I'm just kidding. She's 8 today, but she's definitely been put on the back burner.
Yeah, that's weird. So tell us a little bit about with anxiety, and then you began to use healing. You began to use fly fishing as a healing tool. Before you started the Mayfly project, and we're going to get into that, but before we started the Mayfly project, I mean, what was it about the fly fishing? I know, there's been a lot of references to, the healing power of water there, and things like that.
Yeah.
But what was it? Is there anything in particular, or what was it about fly fishing that changed your life with anxiety?
Yeah. So I think, Jeff, it is the constant movement with fly fishing, not just in the water, because everybody talks about that, like the sound of running water can calm anxiety and all that good stuff. It's the constant, like, mending and, drag free drift and all this good stuff that you're thinking about the whole entire time, where you don't have time to think about anything else but focusing on catching that fish. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
There is, with other types of fishing, typically there can be downtime or whatever. But as far as with fly fishing, you're constantly reading water and, determine what run you're going to hit next, how, why didn't the fish eat this, all that good stuff. I think there's just so much that you can focus on. And, even when I'm not, it kind of gives me something to really dive into. I'm typically, like, I'm a passionate person, and so even when I'm not on the water, I'm focused on time flies and all that good stuff. So even when I was on the water, I could focus on other things that weren't fishing. You know what I'm saying? So even after, like, tying helps me relieve stress. It actually, you can ask my wife Laura, if I don't fish for 2 weeks, she's not gonna say I'm a bear or anything, but you definitely notice a difference. There's definitely something different just about being out there and taking your mind off of everything but fly fishing.
Right. That's so true. And I worked in finance as well, and I don't know if you heard any of our back episodes, but I had a newborn at home. He was our second son, Jess, and no sleep, no fishing, only work. And then when you're done with work, you come home and you work more, and then your wife's exhausted. You know what I mean? So I've told this story before on the podcast, but I remember one day we had this big meeting with a client, and I wore my black suit and everything, and I parked. I mean, we parked downtown, and we had to, a few blocks from the office. So I went to work, and I got there, and my buddy's like, and I go all the way into the office, and my buddy's like, what are you doing? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're wearing brown loafers. And I was wearing a black suit, And
that's awesome.
And I was so exhausted. Awesome. I didn't even realize it, But I totally get it. And then that's how I found fly fishing, because I went to get professional help because I was like really stressed. And she's like, Jeff, there's nothing wrong with you. You need to have a hobby. You need to get out there and do something. And we started fly fishing, and that was a healing tool for me too. So when I read that in when I read that in your bio, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to talk to Jess.
Right. So yeah, man, I'm glad. I don't feel crazy now. So we're both crazy. So that's good.
Well, as long as we're crazy together, I think we're okay. You know.
Right.
Well, so you had a son, and his name is Kase, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So you had Kase, and soon after Kase, you're at church, is that right? And you see all these kids that are foster kids. Tell us about what happened to you internally. What What was that what pulled at your heartstrings there?
Yeah. So we, like I said, I fly fished, probably since I was 8 years old. And I kind of always knew I wanted to give back doing something. I didn't know what it was. And then, I kind of knew after I got in Alaska, I wanted to give back, using fly fishing, but I wanted to do something different. You know what I mean? Like, and I didn't necessarily know what it was. Um, I hadn't been around a whole lot of like little kids. And so, we talk about, just like we talked earlier about the love I had for Kase and that kind of stuff. I think it was 2 months after Kase was born. We had a friend that had a baby that passed away. And when Owen passed away, that kind of helped me realize man, I actually like loved Owen, but I didn't even really know him. I'd never held him. He was born a premature baby. They were twins. They were born at like something crazy early, like 26 weeks,
Wow.
Owen didn't make it. And that was kind of the first time I realized I could love a child that wasn't my own, and when we were at church, this was soon after Owen had passed, an organization came up and they were talking about foster kids. And I looked at Laura and I was like, that's what I want to do. Like, I want to mentor foster kids through, because they were talking about just the, we talk about veterans and PTSD, like foster kids have the exact same stuff, post-traumatic stress disorder with the situations and the stuff they've dealt with in their lives. And, they have, reactive attachment disorders and stuff like that. And, we use all these things for as healing tools for, just great organizations like Project Healing Waters. And these kids have the same stuff, I'm like, man, this makes sense. And so, like I said, once we heard that organization talk at church, I literally looked at Laura and I was like, this is what I'm going to do, and that's kind of how it started, man. There's obviously, there's a lot that led up to it, but it just kind of happened, Jeff. I don't know what happened or how it happened, but I knew that that's kind of what I wanted to do.
So you began to mentor these kids and start taking them fly fishing. What was that first trip like when you took someone out?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. So we started taking kids out probably in, late 2015, late 2014, early 2016, or 2015. I'm all messed up. Laura's looking at me like, Jess, what are you doing? Like I said, we probably started taking them out early 2015, and it was just my wife and I. So it was just Laura and I taking these kids out. And at that time, we were working with that same organization that came to our church. Like they would contact individual foster families and we would take those kids. And we kind of laugh about it now. Like I literally explained earlier, I didn't have a whole lot of experience with kids, so I was kind of awkward. And Laura was helping, but Laura was like actually like a really good help because Laura like keep up with the conversation. I'm just like I'm focused on the fishing, and Laura's like like giving all the high fives, and I'm just rowing everybody around being awkward. You know what I mean? Like so the first few outings, I mean, we had a great time, but again, I was really awkward. And I guess just because I didn't know what to say. But those first few outings, man, we had some kids. We just took them. My aunt has a pond that's loaded with brim and bass. Man, we just went out there and threw some nymphs under some indicators and threw some poppers and stuff like that, and just had a great time and just hung out and loved on some kids.
Wow. And then did they respond well to it? How did the kids respond?
Yeah, so the kids typically, I mean, man, they ate it up, and it's kind of funny, we'll have kids that we think are, that are going to be eat up with it that aren't, and then we have some kids that we we don't think are necessarily going to be ate up with it. It turns out like we can't get them off the river. So, the first couple kids we took, man, I mean, their foster mom just kept like, shooting us messages being like, man, Jonathan had so much fun. He cannot wait to go again. And so, I mean, those first couple kids, really took to it. And I mean, I'm still in contact with them today, what I mean, 3 years later. So
Wow.
it's pretty awesome to see the connections and stuff we can form with these kids.
Yeah. Well, so what can you tell us a story about one of these kids that you came across that you really made an impact with?
Yeah, so probably one of the most memorable kids that we have, his name is Nick, and Nick just turned 17, I believe. And he's a great kid. He's from up in North Arkansas. We met Nick. We normally in our mentoring sessions, and we'll talk about all this later, but we do 5 sessions with kids, but we also have some one-day events that we bring kids in that we don't have access to, so that live too far away. And Nick was attending one of these one-day events, and we had all these kids here, and Nick loved it, man. Nick caught probably a 14-inch brown that day, and
Wow.
and had a great time at that outing, and didn't necessarily hear anything back from Nick when we left. So this was October, and then in early to middle of December, I got a message from his foster mom saying, "Hey, Nick did his Christmas list, and he wants all fly fishing stuff for Christmas." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is awesome." So we put it out on social media, and man, everybody responded back and flooded with donations, all kinds of stuff. So we sent Nick a whole bunch of flies, waders, tippet, all kinds of stuff. And so we kind of stayed in contact with his family and whatnot. And then in February, we decided we were going to do a short film about a kid to try to get the kid adopted. And so we chose Nick, and so we did the film with Nick, and turns out, I can't remember the exact date, but later this year, him and his sister both got adopted because of that film that we filmed.
Wow.
And I actually, I still talk to Nick to this day, and he'll be like, "Hey, Jess, I need you to send me some flies." And so I'll shoot him a whole bunch of flies, so, Nick's definitely, a really, really special kid. And, he got adopted, when these kids age out of the foster care system, they're subject to just being another statistic. After a kid, there's roughly about 415,000 kids in foster care at any given time in the U.S. And 23,000 of those kids will age out. And Nick was right on that bubble of fixing to age out of the system. When those kids age out of the system, 1 in 5 will become homeless after the age of 18. 42% of those 23,000 kids will be convicted of a crime. So, he was so close to being just another statistic. And, something great happened. And, it was fly fishing, so fly fishing definitely, I feel like changed Nick's life, just like it did mine in a completely different way. But now Nick has a forever home, and, just enjoying his senior year of high school and all that good stuff. So Nick's definitely one of our most, Nick's definitely one of our great success stories. So we love telling Nick's story.
That's amazing. And I love it, because the reason we exist is we believe that fly fishing has the power to change the world. We really do. And that may be a really romantic idea, but it's stories like that get me so fired up and so excited.
Right.
So tell us about the process. You said that there are 5 classes, so it's the 5 stages of the Mayfly. Can you go through that and just walk us through how that goes?
Yeah. So we have 5 stages of our program. So basically these 5 stages are named after, a life cycle of a mayfly. And honestly, Jeff, those stages can kind of vary from state to state. So Arkansas project doesn't look exactly like Colorado's, just because we fish like warm water and that kind of stuff. So it can kind of vary, but basically we do these 5 stages within a 6-month window. So the first 4 stages, consist of stuff like casting, time flies, obviously river time and doing all that good stuff. We talk about conservation, so we're actually fixing to launch a new conservation piece this Sunday. And so that's going to be pretty cool. We're this kind of a new part of our process. A new part of our program we're really going to focus on. And within those first 4 sessions, we basically we'll do 2 casting lessons or so, and we'll spend a few days out on the water. And basically when we get to that 5th session, we like to make this 5th session really special for our kids. And so on that 5th session, we like to take them on either an overnight trip or like a day-long trip. Here in Arkansas, we go up to a place called Dry Run Creek, which is in Norfolk, Arkansas. And it's for kids that are 15 and under. And, man, it's got some huge fish in it. And we take our kids up there. And every kid with this last session, they get everything they need to fly fish on their own. So they get a fly rod, a pack, flies, indicators, tippets, split shot, all that good stuff. So, they get that before their last outing and they get to fish with it. So basically, when they go through our process, when they leave the program, we want them to be able to fly fish on their own and have all the tools and the equipment that they need to do that. So, again, the projects can vary from state to state, depending on, the kids and their access to water and that kind of stuff. For instance, here in Arkansas, the kids we mentor live in a group home and they live on a 300-acre ranch, and they have a river that runs right through the middle of it. So we focus on that a lot, catching warm water, smallmouth and, largemouth Kentucky bass and brim and all that good stuff. So that's kind of just the overall gist of the program and how it works.
Well, that's fantastic. Now, you have and the Mayfly Project became an official 501c3 in 2016.
Yes.
Okay. And how many kids would you say you guys are working with at the moment?
So in 2018, I believe we'll mentor and outfit. My estimate is somewhere between 75 to 90 kids from 13 different states.
Wow.
So we started out the very first year, we mentored, in 2016, we mentored 25 kids from Arkansas and Idaho. And then 2017, we mentored 59 kids from 7 different states. And then this year we've kind of, we've really blossomed. We've actually got 5 projects in Colorado. So, it's going to be interesting to see. I think we're really going to touch some lives this year. We're really, really excited.
Man, that's what's so great. It's the lives that will be changed because you sat in your church and you said yes. You said yes to that.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, and I honestly, definitely. There's so many people, that work on this thing too. We've got, we've got Caitlin from Idaho, and we kind of consider her a co-founder. So when Laura and I started taking kids, we didn't really have the whole project set up. You know what I mean? We didn't have the 5 stages and stuff. We were just taking kids. And so when we met Caitlin in early 2016, we started really developing our project together. You know what I mean? She's got a background in social work and with foster kids, and I have a business background. My wife is an attorney, so we kind of had 3 different backgrounds that kind of allowed us to hopefully, set up a stable nonprofit organization. You know what I mean? We really tried to think everything through and make sure that we did stuff right by getting insurance and stuff that covers everybody and all that good stuff.
That's great. That's good that you did all that, and it sounds like you really did it right. I have a question for you, Jess. There's probably a lot of
Okay.
people out here. Now, we had Katie Kahn on here. We've had some really cool people who are doing some really cool things. Um, we've had several people from Project Healing Waters.
Yeah.
Here you are. Now, there may be some people who are listening in their car or on their way to work or doing something that has some kind of burning desire to make an impact, to make a difference in people's lives, whether it's through fly fishing, whether it's through not through fly fishing, maybe it's through pop cans or something. I don't know, but they have this
Right.
desire to change lives. What what would you say to them? I mean, you're on the other side of this. You're 2 years in. What would you say to them?
I'm gonna think about this one for a minute, Jeff. So I give a good answer. So I think that I would say to them, that just follow your heart and whatever you feel like you're called to do. I feel like I was honestly called to mentor foster kids through fly fishing. I know some people may think that's crazy, but I do this because I love it. You know what I mean? I mean, there's I've actually we've seen kids' lives changed, and I don't honestly, Jeff, like it would be awesome if we made it to like all 50 states, but if we only like, so let's just say we shrink back down and we're just in Arkansas, like that's okay too. You know what I mean? Like this,
Right.
I'm doing this, because I love foster kids, and they need somebody like us. That the population is it's hard to get in touch with. We actually have some projects when we try to start a new project in another state. Sometimes it'll take us 9 or 10 months to get a phone call back.
Wow.
I mean, they're hard to get in touch with, and so, man, I would just say, just kind of follow your heart, and whatever you feel like you need to do, just dream big. And I didn't plan for any of this to happen. When we set up the 501c3, it was really because I was donating all my tips from my guide service to the Mayfly project. And so it was just kind of going to be a way for, my customers to kind of give to my kids. And like, there was no intention of taking it, across state lines. It just happened, and there's so many people that have been involved, from my wife to Caitlin, to we actually have a girl on board now. Her name is Heather Sees from Denver, Colorado, and she's helping us with fundraising. I don't feel like I'm very good at fundraising. Like I love accounting and that kind of stuff. But I'm like, Heather, like you got this, girl. So it definitely takes a village. We use that hashtag all the time. Like it takes a village, better together. It definitely it takes a lot of people, but we all believe that we're hopefully going to do great stuff for these foster kids.
I have no doubt that you will, Jess. And I think it's because you didn't plan it. You're just doing it because you love it.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, it was funny. When Caitlin called me, and really, I got Andrea Larco to design our logo because I was like, I just want to like sell some T-shirts to raise some money because I need to buy Jonathan a fly rod. Like that's what I was thinking. And,
right.
And then like Caitlin calls me and she's like, hey, you want to take this thing across the U.S.? I'm like, I don't know, Caitlin. Like, what do you want to do? Like, I don't know. And like I said, it's man, it's been really, really fun. And like I said, honestly, there's been so many people, Jeff, that have been crazy involved in this thing, even from just people in the fly fishing industry. When I'm calling the guys at Cortland or Ethan at Smith Fly or something, I'm like, hey guys, I need some help with some stuff, before we had any kind of funding or anything, and like, yeah man, like no worries. And so just the fly fishing community as a whole is a very passionate and giving community. And so I feel like just being in this niche has really has made us successful as well. You know what I mean? Like, you know, everybody in the community is giving, and it's a small community, and you know, everybody loves to, you know, give back. And so I feel like that's really made a huge difference in the people we've been able to reach, and the amount of expansion that's happened in the last 2 years. So
that's awesome. Well, if people want to get involved, or if people want to donate or find out more about what you're doing with the Mayfly project, how would they do that, Jess?
So on our website, Jeff, we have a tab that says Take Action. And so in that Take Action tab, there's like a place you can select to fill out an online application. So if if you're around one of our projects, and we actually have a list of projects and stuff on our website. If you're around one of our projects, we have an application to join an existing project. Or if you're interested, you're in a state that we're not in, and you're interested in starting a new project, we have a separate application for that. And then on that same tab, in that Take Action tab, we have a donate button. And so you guys can technically go there and donate. We also have a text to give number. That would probably be good if I knew off the top of my head to give you, but I definitely don't.
We'll put it in the show notes for you.
Right. But yeah, man, all of our stuff, can be found on our website, including some of the videos that we did on Nick, and stuff like that. And so you guys can just check out our website or our social media. I tell people, even if you don't have money to give, or don't have time to mentor, like, we're all super busy. Like, that's totally cool. Even, I tell people that somebody shared Nick's video that actually got him adopted. You know what I mean? Like, somebody actually had a hand in getting Nick adopted. Now, they had no idea. Right. All they did was share the post, but Miss Toby Norberg saw that post and adopted Nick because of that video. You know what I mean? So even if it's just sharing videos, that stuff's a huge help. So,
right.
We definitely appreciate all of that.
Well, cool. Well, thank you very much, Jess, for spending some time with us tonight.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much, Jeff, for having me. And like I said, man, I love what you do, and I really appreciate you helping us spread the word. And, man, just thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us for another week of the Remote No Pressure Podcast. Thank you very much, Jess, for spending some time with us. Be sure to check out his website and donate, or check out, or if you feel compelled to do that, go check him out. He's doing some great things. Also, don't forget to go sign up for our mailing list at remotenopressure.com. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook and do all that. And until next time, go fishing.